petal successfully without quite any issues. But this time, maybe run weapon petal in lane. Right? If you do actually run it in lane, we saw Mr. J just pull it off so much better as compared to putting it in the jungle, because in the jungle, as long as the enemies are very aggressive in the jungle, then your plans are pretty much foiled. However, we will be seeing an Arden coming out for the side of J3X Inferno. Arden, quite a good pickup, and we will be seeing Mr. Jim once again opting for that Idris.
Yep, I mean, as you always say, if broken, why change it? And right now we're going to see the first pickup again being that Idris pick. It was allowed through the first bans, but a good change up I like to see this time was that they made sure, or not change up, but something the same again, was that Grace ban, making sure they don't give Grace over to the enemy team. And the question is, they didn't go for Lyra as their first pick, which was interesting, even though we see the same bans coming through for both teams, actually. This was the exact same bans they went with. However, this time, the side of J3X Inferno decided to go for that Arden, and I think it shows that Arden is quite a strong roamer and captain still in the current meta, although he doesn't have those real hard stuns and the aggressiveness of, say, a Catherine, a Grace, or a Lance. What he provides in return is he has the ability to vanguard his teammates, get them out of dangerous situations, and the zoning potential he has with the gauntlet into the late game. But in return to that, we see the Finn pickup returning to the fold once again. I don't know about this. I feel like Finn is like the pickup you go for when the other captains are all banned out, but Catherine was still available, so I'm not too sure.
I mean, we have seen an emergence in Finn, and the only reason is because he's just so very tanky at this point in time. But the side of J3X Inferno will be going for a rather peculiar, or rather very similar team comp with that glaive and scarf that was put out by the side of Infamous as well. Most players probably will be on that scarf once again, but this time I don't think Bren Esports would like or want to go for that petal. I mean, Sky is still on board, and Saint-Quantum plays a phenomenal Sky as well, and Sky generally would work relatively well with the Finn because you want to fight around the Finn. But however, we will be seeing a change up, not a Sky, not a petal, but Cruel. Cruel works generally quite well against that of Glaive, or rather not Glaive, but Scarf, as long as you can just start to step your way out of the group. So that is one thing that maybe the side of J3X Inferno, or rather the side of Bren Esports, would like to achieve. And on top of that as well, Scarf, or rather Cruel, just works so well and is so very strong in that of the early game.
Yeah, and I think that on this, looking at this draft so far, J3X Inferno have done a good job once again at getting a fairly balanced draft, and to be able to pick up that glaive is also a good idea. But for the side of Bren Esports, I'm slightly worried. Of course, the Cruel is a good pick to go alongside Finn, as they're going to be able to stick fairly close together, and just it helps with the overall tankiness of that Cruel. There were other options still on the table, such as Black Feather, but it seems to be the case that Bren Esports really like playing the CP Idris rather than the weapon power. So in that case, we would have had to be seeing a weapon power Black Feather rather than the more common in the current meta CP Black Feather.
Well, I mean, for the current meta, usually you see a lot of weapon Black Feather and CP Idrises. I mean, no, weapon Idrises. But because CP Idris has got such a stronger chakram, and the range as well generally would help out all in all. So that's why we see a lot of CP Idrises being picked up, and also because of the change made to weapon Idris, the reduction in damage that chakram can put out, and because of that, the CP Idris saw a rise and emergence of usage all in all. But for the Vainglory 8 itself, we have seen quite an interesting statistics throughout. The weapon Idris usually would win like 100% of the game, and then we have the CP Idris rather rocky, winning maybe like 10 or so percent of the games that he's been played in. So all in all, I think it's only Bren Esports that have been quite or rather successful with the CP Idris, barring Trophies as well. Trophies plays the CP Idris very much like a mage, with two heroes able to peel for him. Whereas for Mr. Jim, he plays a very interesting CP Idris. He's very dynamic in terms of engage. He goes in, he wants to put out damage as well. However, we will be seeing Nai Bim Bim on the Scarf this time, and Amu's Blaze on that of Glaive.
Yeah, so that is a bit of a change up here, but we'll have to see how well Amu's Blaze can play on this Glaive, and I think it signals that Nai Bim Bim, of course, being the laner, is going to go Scarf lane in this situation. And do you think it's more so they did not want to put Scarf against the Cruel in the jungle, as Cruel could just be sitting and wait and then just jump onto the Scarf?
Honestly, that is what a Cruel should do in general. But all in all, it will be quite a difficult job because we have a Amu's Blaze to be able to just kill.
Ooh, and it looks like that side of J3X Inferno barely cure that pre-end. And yes, into the team fights, we will be seeing that kind of situation for the side of J3X Inferno once they're into the late and mid game. But whether they want to hyper farm this Scarf is the question. As we've seen before with a lot of weapon power glaives, that they can go fairly budget and don't have to go so all in with buying over weapon power arms to start with, and can do a lot early on with just, say, even a Sorrow Blade. Once they get that, they have quite the power spike.
Yeah, but very, very well placed for this Scarf to be able to just put Scarf in that of lane, going up against Mr. Jim on a CP Idris. Generally, it will work well for you because you can just poke out an Idris in that early game, because that is one of the weakness that we saw in any Idrises, but guessing now very low force to pop that flask that he has.
Yep, and it looks like just a bit of poke damage going down. Bib fairly low on energy, and Kahlua was fairly low on health, but guessing in return is lower on health and is going to get taken down by the Glaive, who goes in with Afterburn to pick up the first blood. So J3X Inferno once again starting off strong. Mr. Jim needs to be careful as he's there left on his own, and Almox Play is going to dive in deep for it. It has to use the minion candy to help push the wave out, as he's currently under a lot of pressure, and Sync 1 rotating up the lane is going to find Nai Bim Bim, probably going to be able to get the kill onto them, and he manages to do so, and just running back out a bit out there and sitting and waiting in the bush for the passive, as he's now going to look for Kahlua, but realizing that Almox Blaze is nearby, decides not to take the fight.
Yep, I mean, for all in all, Cruel's playstyle is rather exciting, or rather interesting to watch all in all, because as a Cruel, generally you see different playstyles. When you have Cassandra as a Cruel, very, very patient, but Kahlua face checking that brush and forcing, or rather stopping Mr. Jim to go back. And Cassandra, you see a very patient Cruel. Whereas for Sync 1, he's patient till he gets his heroic perk up and immediately just jump onto Nai Bim Bim earlier on. So very good play, very different in terms of play style as well. And continuing on my previous point, it's very good for a Scarf to go up against a CP Idris, because the early game for CP Idris is just so bad until you get a divergent path and your empowerment of your basic attacks and your range as well. And with that, capitalizing on that fact will always just beat you good Amu's Blaze, or rather Kahlua.
But right now the damage is really coming on for the as he picks up his second kill, making rotation up to lane, getting the gank off successfully, but Mr. Jim gets taken down by Blaze, who dived under turret. Sync 1 could just turn his attention and take Almox Blaze, but he's too distracted by Nai Bim Bim. He's going to get the smite off. He might actually be able to catch out Almox Blaze for the double, and Sync 1 going to go down to the turret, sadly. I believe Guessing had the Polite Company. I'm not sure if it just came up before Sync 1 died there, but I'm not too sure what happened. They're still in the lead of kills just by 1, but the gold lead actually slightly, ever so slightly, in favor of J3X Inferno.
Yep, definitely. I mean, J3X Inferno definitely playing so much better, especially with Nai Bim Bim able to just put a lot of pressure onto Mr. Jim in this early game, especially since Mr. Jim not even completing that Frostburn or the Shatter Glass yet to get any of the Divergent Path unlocked, and this time just really relying on Guessing on this Finn to just tank up for him and soak up as much damage and minion damage as well, going in for the poke. But we do see Amongst Blaze once again going in, or rather looking for that afterburn.
Yep, looking for the afterburn indeed, and there's Sync 1 coming up. Nibim missing him now with some crystal power, able to a bit more, able to pick up a kill onto Nibim, and they're going to secure the kill onto Kahlua as well. The double kill for Mr. Jim this time, although Sync 1 playing a very important role there. The gank coming up from such an unexpected angle into the From Hell's Heart worked out so well, and Amongst Blaze going very low to that CP Chakram. And now you see a slight power spike on the side of Bren Esports, because previously Mr. Jim only had the Book of Eulogies and the Light Shield as he is focused on staying alive in the laning phase. But oh my, Sync 1 just coming out of nowhere, putting down a lot of damage. Needs to be careful, however, as the turret puts down more. And I'm not sure, he won't be able to make the back, but oh my, make the back, but he did manage to get a kill in return. Those reactions were pretty good on the side of Sync 1, not going down without a fight and not losing everything for nothing. And you can see that right now, Bren Esports playing a lot better into this early game.
Yep, they are definitely playing so much better into this early game, and Sync 1 just being very patient definitely pays off for the side of Bren Esports. Clave picking up Finn.
Yep, it's definitely very back and forth at the moment as J3X able to pick up the kill onto Finn. They might be able to get Mr. Jim as we're not going to go down to the turret. He will be able to escape just barely, and Sync 1, meanwhile, who was waiting in the wings, going to be able to find Kahlua. He did use the From Hell's Heart, so that's not available to take out anyone else, and now it leaves the turret wide open, and Finn really the only one to stop this. I don't think he can. The siege coming out from Scarf once again, just too strong, and is able to take it. He might be able to cancel the back off of Amongst Blaze. Nope, doesn't manage to do so. So we're really losing everything out here, but he does catch out Nibim with that quibble into the Chakram. It's a good way for Mr. Jim to be able to land those. Definitely helps out there. But overall, it's a much more even game, I'd like to say.
Yep, definitely an even game throughout. I mean, the placement of the heroes plays a big part, and they are really just waiting for guessings level 6 and level 8. Why both of this level 6 you get the hook, level 8 you get your stun as well. Sync 1 soloing that gold miner and will not be challenged whatsoever. I mean, Kahlua did try to come in for a C-look, but it was just not enough. However, Sync 1 goes in with that empowerment as well, but will be forced to back off overall.
Yeah, they are forced back for now, but guessing, getting in a position
to
force the coordinate and gets on to Kahlua, but Kahlua going to use the gauntlet over the wall, and I guess that's two ultimates just being traded out by Eva, Roma, and right now J3X Inferno more so just looking to put pressure on this lane, and they forced the afterburn out of Amongst Blaze, so this could be the chance for them to push in. Although Guessing doesn't have that forced accord available to him, he's still able to help them secure the kill as Sync 1 goes in with the From Hell's Heart onto Kahlua, and that's leaving them without that Roma. But as long as Nibim can burn down these minions, they should be okay. But there's going to be a very aggressive maneuver coming out from the side of Bren Esports as the Shimmer Strike onto Sync 1 on that crew just goes in onto Scarf, and then Mr. Jim is like, thanks for the ride, jumps off, and they manage to pick up Nibim. Now looking for the turret, maybe even looking for Amongst Blaze, who has that afterburn up in just a second and won't be able to use it to get out of there, gets shut down instead, and Bren Esports looking a lot better this game.
That weapon battle definitely was not a very good pick by Mr. Jim, though. Next target of Nibim, but will get away safely with that polite company to provide that extra fortified health from Guessing X. And honestly, the weapon battle wasn't quite a good pick on and off, because we know how comfortable Amongst Blaze was on that Scarf. Right, so then the weapon battle pickup was almost as if Guessing X is just going like, you know what, let me just go this weapon battle and I'll see how it goes. But this time around, they definitely have got thought through, or rather have thought through, all they want to play and what they need to know about the side of J3X Inferno.
Oh, great use of the Force Accord into the Quibble, and they managed to, I think, force out the Crucible coming from Kahlua. Meanwhile, Night Bim Bim getting chased down by Sync1, but Sync1 not able to kill him soon enough, has to back off from the fight for just a second, but Idris on the back line able to clean up Amok's place. Sync1 jumping into the fight once again, this time onto Kahlua. Night Bim Bim separated from his roamers, left on his own to fight this one out, but will he be able to win it? He's between the Crystal Sentry and the whole. It doesn't look like he's going to be able to. That's an ace for the side of Bren, and they're able to stay all of their keep all of their team members alive through that fight. And it looks like Mr. Jim just going to go up to clear the lane, meanwhile leave the rest of his team to take this gold mine. But whether Glaive is aware of this, I'm not sure. It looks like he is going to go over the wall with Afterburn. No, he isn't going to be able to contest this one. So more so maybe just wanting to secure his own farm than anything.
Yep, and honestly, just now, I was thinking that a Moose Blaze will still be on the Scarf, and Night Bim Bim will take the Glaive up into lane. That way, your Glaive, you can constantly just pull off an Afterburn and try to get on to Mr. Jim. But guessing EXO, finding Night Bim Bim, Polite Company.
Yeah, Polite Company lands, and Night Bim back position, no one around, we're stuck at base, and Amok's Blaze just in lane. I believe there might be connection. No, Kahlua's back. So I guess just bad positioning to be caught out in lane like that. And you saw how from House Heart already used. So it means that it won't be up now, but Bren Esports not going to let that stop them from pushing into this turret, pushing back the team of J3X Inferno and pushing back the minion wave. Now going to focus their attention onto this turret, but do they have the damage to take it? The Chakram's trying to come out to get it, but no, it looks like the second turret for now will stay up, and guessing, taking a lot of damage at this point. Should be careful. He doesn't have the Forced Accord, and he's just going to be there to tank up damage. Will they be able to get the turret? They managed to, but look, Sync1 is caught out in the gauntlet, gets taken down by Night Bim Bim, walks right into the goop, into the Spitfire, and it doesn't look like Mr. Jim can do enough on his own without Sync1 being there in the front line. He almost takes Amok's Blaze out, but it's not enough. Oh, using the Shimmer Strike onto Night Bim Bim, and he's able to pick up the kill onto Glaive. Now just trying to walk away, juke away, I should say, from this team fight. Kahlua trying to get close to him, but that's not the right idea as Mr. Jim throwing out the Chakrams, doing a lot of damage, guessing, tanking up a lot. And it looks like Kahlua going so very low. Mr. Jim needs to be careful not to get greedy. One auto attack will be enough to do it. But Scarf on Night Bim Bim on the Scarf, able to get the kill and Sync1 that whole time. The elongated the fight just went on too long. Sync1 able to rush all the way back from death from the base and get the kill.
Yeah, but Sync1 now will be met by Amok's Blaze on that big kitty cat. But Amok's Blaze will just be interested in those lane farm and food and not so much of Sync1. I must say, Sync1 playing very, very well as a very assassin-like cruel, if that makes sense. He comes in with the heroic perks, and then on top of that, he has got Mr. Jim as well on the CP Idris. And the moment he lands at DMR, Mr. Jim jumps out of nowhere and then immediately just
forced the cord onto the J3X Inferno, manages to follow up quick, but the rest of the team wasn't there to really follow up and damage, but they're definitely pushing the side of J3X Inferno back. There's a defensive gauntlet, but it doesn't really catch anyone out. It keeps them in there, but Kahlua has to stay in there with the rest of them to give over his life just so his teammates can get out of there. And right now, Bren Esports are playing a lot more aggressively, and I think it's due to the fact that they didn't have to wait for, say, a weapon power pedal to ramp up, and they can just use this assassin-like cruel that you mentioned to play very aggressive themselves, and they're kind of just countering previous aggression with their own aggression, and it works out in the case that Scarf is a hero that needs to get to the late game, and if they're able to shut down Scarf anymore as we move on to Kraken, that will soon be available, Bren Esports should be able to close out this game fairly easily.
And I personally really like the combo, the wombo combo that the side of Bren Esports is putting out with that Shimmer Strike into Cruel and Cruel DMR in. Idris Shimmer strikes out, and then boom, a high burst of damage, immediately taking out Nai Bim Bim earlier on when he was caught out of position. So that is quite innovative coming out from them. I mean, usually you see that Idris, or rather the Taka delivery system coming out from Idris and Taka combo. Rarely would you see this Cruel and Idris being used in this particular delivery system, like Asrai likes to call them.
Yes, well, I do think that it's aggressive and it's confident in play. It's also got a lot of synergy that has to be put into it, because for Mr. Jim to use his Shimmer Strike at that point in time means he has no way of getting out later from the fight. So it is definitely a commitment into the fight. But if Bren Esports are willing to do it, and if they're able to pull it off, it definitely works wonders for them. Forster Cord going to get blocked, however. They did manage to get the anchor turret away from the enemy team. And with Kraken up on the fold, this means they could just push in with one Kraken if they're able to secure it and take the win. But Sync 1 going low on the backline here. Nai Bim Bim charging up that Dragon's Breath and diving deep is going to fall to the Idris, and meanwhile Amok's Blade is going to get taken down by Sync 1. Mr. Jim going to chase down Kalua for the double kill. They managed to do so, and they don't even want the Kraken at this point. They're just going to push through for the win. There's a little emote by Guessing, and they're going to take the turrets with ease. Guessing not even going to help his teammates, just going to say, well, Sync 1, Mr. Jim, you guys can do all the work.
Yep, you guys can do all the work indeed. A lot of damage coming out from the side of Bren Esports in this game, and to react with aggression definitely worked out for the side of Bren Esports. I mean, we all know Bren Esports as a team that has been very, very aggressive throughout, and that is really how they kind of won impunity. They are not one of those that wants to turtle up and try their bestest to farm up, and I guess this works very well for them. If not, then place the weapon patrol in that of lane. That way he gets the items really, really quickly. Alright.